My name is Daryl Richardson, and welcome to Behind the Stars, the untold stories of Black industry dancers.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for allowing me to share my dance journey with you today. And if it wasn't for my mother, there would have been no dance journey. She said that when she took me to see my god sister in her dance recital, I used to get up in aisles and start dancing. So she quickly enrolled me in the Maple Art Dance Studio, where my god sister Carolyn James went. And I followed her footsteps into performing arts. But the story of performing arts, getting into performing arts, she auditioned me. And at the end of the audition, I packed my bags, I left the building, and she was screaming at me from the top floor, Lorraine, I want to let you know that you made it into the High School of Performing Arts. Well, I danced all the way to the subway and was just jumping for joy all over. After high school, I was really focused on becoming a professional dancer. My mother was focused on getting me into a university, in particular her old alma mater, Lincoln University in Jefferson, Missouri. So she drove myself and Michelle, my best friend, out there, introduced me to a home economics teacher, said this is where you're going to go to school. And when we got back in the car and drove all the way back home to New York City, I said to my mom, I'm like, Mom, you'll waste your money if you send me to school right now. So I got her attention. She turned around and looked at me and said, okay, I'm going to give you 1 year to make it as a dancer in show business. I couldn't get home fast enough, get that dance back. I was completely focused and resolved. I am going to get an audition. I am going to get an audition. And got my third audition in a show called How Do You Do, I Love You. Tony Rodente was the choreographer and Phyllis Newman was the star of the show. Now, I was the only Black person in this show. That will make sense later on. This is a theme that will go on throughout my career. But my second show was Golden Boy, starring Sammy Davis Jr., had already appeared on Broadway, so now it was going on to the road to Chicago and to London. Wow, I'm going out of the country already. So Lester Wilson and Jaime Rogers were the choreographers. I had been studying with them while I was going to the High School of Performing Arts, so I felt really comfortable to be with them. But what was really interesting is that it was an all predominantly Black company. And this was very important, I believe, at the time, because a week before we were to go to Chicago, Martin Luther King had been assassinated. And I really feel that the people I was with, the way that we experienced that trauma was an important part of my life. They cared, we all cared for each other, we all loved each other, and we all had an awakening. Sammy had a really strong awakening because now he's got to go to Chicago and there's going to be all kinds of, African American people coming at him. So he quickly found a new identity and started wearing an Afro wig and brought like a whole wardrobe full of dashikis and chains with fists on them and Afro combs on it. And he never left the theater as himself, as the way he performed. He left with his Afro wig and his dashiki because he encountered, many people there that now wanted him, with his high profile to really represent African Americans and to really align more with what African Americans were really wanting at that time. So we encountered the Blackstone Rangers, which is kind of like a gang out of Chicago that eventually they became revolutionaries and Black nationalists. And then we encountered Dick Gregory, Reverend Jackson, just many leaders in the civil rights movement. So then after we finished Chicago, we went on to London. But 3 days after we arrived in London, Robert Kennedy was assassinated. The eyes upon us were like, what is going on with y'all in America? And it just made me really angry. And I went upstairs to my little tiny room and cut all of my hair off and started sporting an afro. Like that song, I'm Black and Not Proud, just came to the forefront of my brain. I'm like, I'm going to be black and I'm going to be proud to be black. Then I traveled with Sammy and his nightclub act. And although there were a lot of things I did not understand or appreciate about Sammy and his struggle in the business, the one thing that I did appreciate was the fact that he always, strove for excellence as a performer. He welcomed me to the show personally. He said, I want to thank you for being part of this show. And when I told him, after traveling through Germany and through the United States, I wanted to move to Los Angeles, he quickly responded and said that he would help me get my first television show. And he did. And it was called The Hollywood Palace Show. There I met my friend Tracy Mosley. It was Jerry Grimes and Clifford Allen that really hosted myself in Los Angeles, and those three people really became my family. And this family quickly grew through the years. Many dancers from New York migrated to Los Angeles, and we became a dance family that celebrated birthdays, holidays, whatever. So I was able to study and reunite with Donnie McHale, who I had met in London, and also Claude Thompson. Jaime Rogers had then moved to California, and I started studying with him. And then shortly after that, Lester Wilson came out to California, and I studied with him. I enjoyed those classes so much with those four masters. They were just amazing. So many jobs I did with them. One of the jobs was with Claude. We did the King Kong movie in 1972. And a story about my experience there was De Laurentiis production, and his nephew was one of the production assistants, and he was assigned to the dancers. He would always come and bring us messages and tell us things that we needed to do, and if we had questions, we would ask him. But when they told us that we were going to have to put mud in our hair every day, everyone just said, that's just not going to work on African American hair. We can't wash our hair every day. So collectively, we came up with the idea, let's get wigs and let's put henna in it. That means we could put the wig on, be at work, take it off, leave it at work, go home and not dirty up our cars or have to go home and wash our hair. So there were other ideas that we came up with, and he took it as they're not listening to me. But the producers, managers called myself and Claude to have a meeting with them. And as they were speaking, I realized they were getting ready to fire me. I'm sitting there talking to myself and trying to figure out, okay, so this next moment I can either show them my negative self or my most powerful self. And I decided I would show them, my most powerful self. After they finished, I said, well, before I leave, I want to just give you some suggestions for your production, so that your production can go smoothly. And I gave them those suggestions, one being the hair and a few others. And by the time I finished, they rehired me. And we never had any problems after that. So that was a real great lesson to me, that it's your integrity that should always come first. And then I went on to work with Lester in a show called $600 Interview. An amazing show. It was just dance show of the African American history from slavery to present. Sammy helped the production get some sort of recognition as well. Anyway, it was a wonderful time. It was a great group of people. And then after that, Lester was the associate choreographer for a movie called Funny Lady with Barbara Streisand, and I had an opportunity of doing my first film. It was wonderful because I also was reunited with my high school performing arts friend, Ben Vereen, and got a chance to do a special number with him and Mabel Robinson. After that, I really recognized that I paid great attention to detail in terms of, steps and style. And I was able to quickly execute them, and I was able to also teach it easily to other people. And so I really came up with the idea for myself, let me start to market myself more as an assistant choreographer. But the person I really wanted to mostly assist was Lester Wilson. And I got a chance to work with him for about approximately 5 years, and starting out with the Red Fox show. It was a variety show. And we did several TV specials. We also did the movie Saturday Night Fever, which was a great experience. And I love working with John Travolta. He was wonderful to work with. We also did nightclub acts like the Anne Margaret Act, Thelma Houston, Billy and Marilyn McCoo. I mean, we did several things, and it was a true joy. After working with him, I started really remarketing myself as a performer again. I was able to do a show singing and dancing with Juliet Prowse. I always wanted to work with do Fosse's work. And I had worked with her on the road doing Sweet Charity early on, and she suggested me to be one of the 3 girls in the trio, Something Better Than This, from Charity. And that was on a television show. And it was so much fun because I loved that number. I loved doing the work, and I also loved working with Juliet.
There's gotta be some respectable trade. There's gotta be something easy to learn. And when I find me something I halfway can learn, I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna get out, I'm gonna get out and learn it. All these jokers, how I hate them with their roping, clutching, strangling, handling, pinching, booing. There's gotta be some life cleaner than this. There's gotta be some good reason to live. And when I find me some kind of life I can live, I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna get up, live it!
Stay tuned for part 2 of Behind the Stars, the untold story of Lorraine Fields.